What drives someone who seems to have it all to a life of deceit and violence? Philip Markov was not just a medical student with a bright future and a loving fiancée. He was, to the outside world, living the dream. But in reality lay a dark side no one could have predicted. What made him take such a drastic, violent turn? Markov wasn't just a man with ambition. He was a man with a hidden obsession. Using Craigslist as his hunting ground, he lured victims into what would become deadly encounters. But the question is, what drove him to such extremes? Was it the thrill, the chase, or something deeper? Join us as we unravel the truth behind this deception and explore the chilling series of events that turned the promising young man into the notorious Craigslist killer. Philip Markov was born on February 12, 1986 in Sherrill, New York, a small, quiet town where he was raised in a seemingly normal family. His father, Richard Markov, was a dentist, and his mother, Susan, had remarried a banker named Gary Carroll after divorcing Richard. Philip had an older brother named Jonathan and a half-sister from his mother's second marriage. On the outside, Markov's life seemed typical of a bright, driven young man. He excelled academically, graduating in 2004 from Vernon Verona Sherrill High School, where he was involved in extracurricular activities like the National Honor Society, the History Club, and even the school's bowling and golf teams. After high school, Markov continued his impressive academic streak, attending SUNY Albany, where he majored in pre-med. He was known for being a serious student, one who had his eyes set on a future in medicine. In 2007, after graduating from Albany, Markov applied to medical schools and eventually landed at Boston University's School of Medicine, where he was in his second year at the time of his arrest. He was a top-performing student, seemingly on track for a successful medical career. Markov's personal life also seemed picture-perfect. In 2005, he met Megan McAllister, a fellow volunteer at the Albany Medical Center. Megan was a New Jersey native and shared Philip's passion for medicine. Their relationship blossomed quickly, and in 2008, the couple became engaged, planning an extravagant wedding for August 14, 2009. Megan was set to begin her own journey into medical school that same fall, making them the ultimate power couple in the eyes of their friends and family. But beneath the surface, Philip Markov's life was far from perfect. He was struggling with a hidden addiction to gambling, and his compulsion led him to seek thrills elsewhere, specifically through the darker corners of the internet. He began frequenting Craigslist, where he connected with women who advertised erotic services. Little did anyone know this double life would eventually spiral into a series of violent crimes that shocked the nation. Philip Markov's descent into becoming the Craigslist killer didn't happen overnight. Almost a year before his violent spree began, Markov had already started to show signs of leading a double life. This quiet, promising medical student, who was engaged to be married, had an appetite for risky, secret encounters. Using Craigslist, he sought connections that no one close to him would have ever suspected. In May of 2008, Markov started exchanging explicit messages on Craigslist. His first messages were directed at a user in Boston labeled as a transvestite at the time. He used the email address sexaddict5385@yahoo.com and started with "Hey Sexy" before continuing with several suggestive and explicit emails. Although this interaction didn't lead to an in-person meeting, it revealed a different side to Markov. This wasn't the composed medical student people thought they knew, but a man chasing darker impulses. And so Markov's online behavior continued. In January 2009, he reached out again, this time using a different username. But still under the same Craigslist category, men looking for transvestites, or M4T. His interactions didn't stop there. At one point, he even posted as a female ebony masseuse, looking to attract male clients. Whether he followed through with any encounters from these postings is unclear. However, these online activities paint a picture of a man who was actively living a secret life long before his violent actions shocked the world. Everything escalated in April 2009. Philip Markov responded to an ad under Craigslist's erotic services section, which would later be renamed Adult Services due to the notoriety of his crimes. This ad was posted by Julissa Brisman, a 26-year-old masseuse and aspiring model. The two exchanged messages using fake names and agreed to meet on April 14, 2009. Only 4 months before Markov was set to marry his fiancée, Megan McAllister. When Markov arrived at the hotel room where Brisman was staying, what started as a robbery quickly spiraled into violence. Brisman fought back against the much larger Markov, but in the struggle, he bludgeoned her with his pistol and then shot her 3 times at close range. She was found alive, but died shortly after at Boston Medical Center, the same hospital where Markov was studying to become a doctor. Now it's important to note that this wasn't an isolated incident. It was part of a spree that had already begun. Just 4 days before Julissa Brisman's murder on April 10, 2009, Markov attacked another woman, Tricia Leffler, who also advertised her services on Craigslist. They met at a Boston hotel, and as soon as Markov entered her room, he pulled out a gun, tied her up, and robbed her. Luckily for Leffler, she wasn't physically harmed, but the trauma was immense. Leffler would later describe how terrified she was, knowing that things could have taken a much darker turn. And just 2 days after Brisman's murder on April 16, 2009, Markov struck again. This time, his victim was Cynthia Melton, an exotic dancer who had advertised lap dance services on Craigslist. The interaction mirrored his previous attacks. Markov tied her up, demanded money, and searched her belongings for credit cards and cash. However, this time he was interrupted by Melton's husband, and he fled before the situation could escalate any further. The attacks seemed to be building in intensity, and it was only a matter of time before the authorities would catch up to him. The digital world Markov used to orchestrate these crimes would ultimately lead to his capture. Every message sent and every Craigslist ad responded to left behind a trail of digital footprints. These included email addresses, phone numbers, and IP addresses, all of which investigators were able to trace back to Markov's Boston apartment. Additionally, CCTV footage captured a man in a black leather jacket and New York Yankees cap entering and leaving the hotels where the crimes had occurred. On April 20, 2009, just 6 days after Brisman's murder, police pulled over Markov and his fiancée as they drove to a casino in Connecticut. While Markov was taken into custody, investigators searched his apartment. Inside, they found disturbing evidence: a handgun hidden inside a hollowed-out medical textbook, bullets matching those used in Brisman's murder, plastic ties like those who used to restrain the victims, and women's underwear believed to have been taken as trophies. They also recovered a hard drive that contained incriminating messages connected to the Craigslist ads, solidifying the case against them. Markov was charged with multiple crimes, including the first-degree murder of Julissa Brisman, as well as armed robbery and kidnapping related to his other attacks. He pleaded not guilty, and he was held without bail. As the case made national headlines, it became clear that Philip Markov, once seen as a promising medical student, was living a shocking double life as a predator. His arrest shocked many, especially his fiancée, Megan McAllister, who initially defended him, saying he was a beautiful man inside and out, and that he wouldn't hurt a fly. But as the evidence mounted, their relationship fell apart, and the couple called off their wedding in May 2009. Markov pleaded not guilty during his arraignment, but the court proceedings would never reach a conclusion. After his arrest, Markov made several suicide attempts while in jail. The first occurred within 48 hours of his imprisonment, where he was found with shoelace marks around his neck. However, his final attempt on August 15, 2010 would be successful. On what would have been the first anniversary of his planned wedding, Markov used his medical knowledge to end his life in a gruesome manner. He slashed the arteries in his neck, legs, and ankles using a makeshift scalpel fashioned from a pen. He also stuffed his mouth with toilet paper to prevent resuscitation and covered his head with a plastic bag. In his final moments, Markov wrote a bloody message on the walls of his cell. The word Megan was clear, but the meaning of the second word pocket remains a mystery to this day. Markov's suicide denied the victims' families the closure of seeing him convicted in court. However, his death also brought an end to the chilling saga of the Craigslist killer. The case stands as a haunting reminder of the dark secrets people can hide behind seemingly normal lives. And it forever changed how people viewed the safety of the online platforms like Craigslist, which had been used by criminals before. But Markov's case brought it to national attention. Craigslist eventually shut down its erotic services section, a move that many attributed directly to the crimes of the Craigslist killer. What do you think about this case? Do you believe someone can lead such a double life without those closest to them noticing? Could there have been any signs that were missed by his fiancée or family? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for joining us on this episode. If you found this story compelling, please like, share, and subscribe to stay updated with our next in-depth investigations on Real Crime Zone. See you in our next video.